right. All right, 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 okay, okay. How you doing, everybody? Dan here with another episode of The Joy of Pancakes, our thrice weekly live streaming series in which one of the Pancakes artists, Dan today, hangs out with you, listens to some chill out music. Oh, that's not even on my face, is it? Anyway, hangs out with you, listens to some chill out music, and makes pancake art designs of anything you can imagine. Feel free to leave us a message in the chat. Let us know you're watching. Let us know where you're at, how you're feeling, how your holidays have been going. Anything. We're here to hang out and have a good time. And, well, I'm not going to waste too much more time than that. I didn't really have a prompt in mind for the first pancake of the day here. A lot of times I'll start up with something in mind, but I don't have anything in particular in mind. So I'm either going to just freestyle something or take one of the first requests I see in chat. Hey, Misty, good to see you. I had a very relaxing Christmas. It was super low-key. Dana came over and hung out with me and Hannah, and our cats met one another. They did not like each other very much, but that's how cats do. So we'll give that a couple more tries before we give up. We just sat around. Hannah made some from-scratch cinnamon rolls and, you know, just living our lives. It was very nice. It was very needed. The last couple of days have been super laid back. Oh shoot, you know what? I'll be right back. Be right back. I made myself some coffee and I forgot to actually pour it. So I'm gonna grab that one moment. I'm back. Okay, sorry about that, folks. It's your brother's birthday on Christmas. Hi, Chris. Good to see you in the chat, man. Draw those cinnamon rolls, then. Yeah, that sounds like actually a very good suggestion. Starting with the cinnamon rolls. I saw the Big Mouth request. Just so you know, I see you, Naomi, but I think I'm feeling the cinnamon rolls a little bit more here. Hi, Zemi. Hi, Skylar. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We are super stoked to have you. Let me set aside some good colors for these cinnamon rolls. The icing, I'm going to want some blues for sure. Blue, gray, white, plain. Okay. Lots of tasty colors for these cinnamon rolls. And you know what? Just so I have a little bit more to go off of, I'm going to pull up a reference image. There are some very, very beautiful images of cinnamon rolls out there. See if I can find one that looks... Yeah, I like that. Add to photos. Pull that up. Lovely. We got a nice cinnamon roll reference image there. The JECM, that may be just on YouTube. According to my restream, I got 54 people watching. And I don't know how accurate that is, because it kind of flickers with its dependability, but we stream on 4 platforms simultaneously, so even if you only see 4 on one platform, it doesn't mean that's the only people we got watching. And besides, it gets posted later, so it's content. It's content, baby. Oh, that's too hot to drink. That's too hot to drink. Okay. All right, cinnamon rolls. Now, I don't want to overthink any of the pancakes I'm going to make today. I'm going to try and move at a decent speed so that I can make more pancakes on this stream. I don't want to sacrifice any quality, of course, but there's definitely a sort of a style that emerges when I care less, when I sort of move into that that mindset of good enough. Right now I'm just kind of tracing some basic outlines so we can get the general shapes in place. come back and hit these with highlights and shading and all that good stuff. One of the things I try to do on Joy Pancakes sometimes is share some of the tips and tricks so that folks who are following along can learn how I do pancake art. One of the most frequent techniques you'll hear me talk about is squeeze control. I'm using a lot of that right now because I have this very small bottle with a very fine tip. And I don't want the liquid of the batter to go flying. I don't want it to just come out willy-nilly because then I lose my defined shapes. You can kind of lose the design of what you're drawing. So we squeeze air out of the bottles ahead of time so that there's just a tiny little bit of suction on every bottle. You can actually even see that I'm squeezing it a little bit right there, but it's not very much. And that suction allows me to start and stop my line work a lot easier. So you'll see me do that all the time. Let's see, we got cinnamon roll pancake art. How lovely. Let's see. A couple little dabs of color up here. And just kind of barely make out the actual golden brown crust of the cinnamon roll underneath this beautiful icing glaze. A stack of pancakes, that was a good one. Harry Styles, that's a good suggestion. Misty asks, what's your favorite dessert, Dan? Great question. My favorite dessert, well, cinnamon rolls are certainly up there. I think if I had any choice in the world, I would probably go with chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream. Simple boy. Give me the most sugar. Give me all of the sweetness. I want it all. Put it in my body. Definitely going to go for more of a sort of a painterly style here. I'm going to use a lot of impressionistic colors, I guess. I'm not going to go for perfect accuracy. I rarely do. Usually when I go for perfect accuracy, I have a tendency to overthink it and overdo it. And something like this, something that doesn't have very many, there's not like any facial features or anything that I could get too wrong. I feel a little bit freer. Oh, stole that highlight. Gold bouillon. Interesting one. Ian. Merry Christmas, Dan. I'm with Paul vs. Godzilla, and he says, what's up? How you doing, y'all? Paul vs. Godzilla. Paul. Tell Paul I said hello, and then it's good to see y'all in the chat. Blast from the past. Hope y'all are still hanging out, making music, being cool dudes. Feel free to make suggestions. Now, this red might have been a bad choice. I was hoping it would kind of get some of the cinnamon affect in there, but we'll see. A little bit of shading underneath those icing eaves. JECM, I wonder what happens when you finish the cakes. Do you eat it or someone else eats it or another one eats it? We generally, especially lately, preserve them. We preserve the pieces that we make here in the studio, and they end up on the wall behind me and for sale on the pancakes.com website. So if you are interested in owning a piece of Dan Cake's pancake art, you are probably able to get it. It's one of our main sources of income right now is commissions and sales of preserved pieces. So folks being interested in buying them is actually a huge help to us. And we greatly appreciate it when folks check it out, share, that sort of thing. The pancakes are totally edible. We use gel colors, which is the same thing they put in cupcake icing to make all of their beautiful colors. But we extract the moisture from the pancakes, seal them, and then sink them into resin, which is how we make them preservable. So once they're preserved, you know, you can't really eat them anymore, but at that point, it's not really the idea. Tasty swirls. Spooky Panther, I'm making a cinnamon roll. Bud Weber, welcome back. Favorite song, asked Jaden Hill. My favorite song? I don't know if I can answer that with one specific song. It changes over time, you know. There's lots of songs that I have fond memories of, or really enjoy listening to, or know all the words to, this, that, and the other thing. I listened to the Mariner's Revenge song the other day with my wife by the Decemberists. That's a big favorite of mine. It's a very like old-timey sounding bardic ballad. I love that kind of stuff. I like songs that tell stories. We'll see if this blue does what I want it to do. This might not communicate super well, but I think it'll be a nice accent. Orange in there for some really strong contrast in the actual body of this cinnamon roll. Texture there. Some nice, rich, golden, yellow, buttery, flaky crust. Okay, let's see what we'll do. Dan, do you have any plan of finishing the sleeve of the tattoo, and which one is your most favorite? After finishing the sleeve, do you have a plan of getting more tattoos? I would like to, I don't have a solid plan in place to finish this tattoo. I would definitely like to get it finished, but it's very expensive, and this year has not been the best on my finances. I think maybe if not for the pandemic, I probably would have already had it finished. I had the dates scheduled, I just didn't have the money I needed to finish it off. So it didn't happen. I'd very much like to get it done. Feel that. I don't have any plans to get more tattoos than this. But, I don't know. I didn't really plan on getting this. It was just sort of a decision. Siogo's YouTube logo, please? Maybe? I like to try and do things that are a little bit less specific. Maybe not specific, but I don't even know the word I'm looking for. But I like things that are more vague. That would be good for either a commission or for our request stream on Sundays. But I do appreciate the subscription. Mandaroth. Mandarorath. I've seen you in the chat before. I don't know if I've ever pronounced your name out loud before, but welcome back. Joao says, I like it. Appreciate that, Joao. Misty asks, what is your must-watch movies for Christmas? I don't know if I have any must-watch movies for Christmas. Definitely... I watched Alien the other day with my friends on Christmas Eve, so that was kind of cool. It's not exactly a Christmas movie, but, you know. It is a classic. Ripley's a feminist icon. Definitely not exactly Christmas movie fare, but I don't know. And then a couple days before that, I watched Joker for the first time. Really enjoyed that. But again, not exactly a Christmas movie. I like, what's the Rankin Bass? The Rankin Bass animated films. The classics like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and stuff like that. Those get you in right in the nostalgia. Excuse me. All right. A very colorful cinnamon roll. Zemi Wolfs, if you were a supernatural creature, which one would you be? Supernatural creature, probably a fairy of some kind, a fae. I feel like that's my personality archetype. You know, like I would be the guy that would meet you in the forest and just give you food that was cursed, or just play some kind of a prank, right? Trickster, or maybe like the coyote in Native American folklore or something like that. I mean, I guess those aren't so much mythical creatures or supernatural creatures as they are like god entities, but you know. Yeah, a fairy. But like I mean in the sort of like the traditional Celtic, you know, there's a lot of dark undertones in fae folklore. Why am I just in the sense of the trickster attitude of I don't know, those are always the stories that I vibe with the most. Like I enjoy very specific, very intense prank playing on the part of mythical creatures and stuff. Bud Weber. That looks nice, Pancakes. Thank you very much, Bud. Y'all ready to see this flip? First pancake of the stream. It's a cinnamon roll. Bonk. Tasty. Strong shadow on that. Okay. Happy with that. Appreciate that, y'all. Let's take some suggestions for a follow-up piece here. we can keep hanging out, talking about stuff, shooting the breeze with our internet friends. Most favorite mythical story can you share with us? And can you draw a Rottweiler dog? Mine is turning a year old today. Rottweiler, that'd be kind of a cool one. Thank you. Was that Saria? Saria Rose Manuel? Appreciate that. There we go. I'm gonna hold that in the shot there. A Rottweiler dog. Let's see. Let me pull this up. See if I can pull up a Rottweiler reference image. Have fun with that. And they're very pretty animals. How about a puppy? A Rottweiler puppy. Everybody loves puppies, right? Everybody loves puppies. We'll make a puppy pancake. How about that? Good reference right there. That's a good reference right there. All right. My most favorite mythical story. That's a very good, that's a good question. I'm not sure if I've told this on stream before, but I do have a favorite myth. I have a favorite story. And I like to tell it just because, you know, every time you tell it, it commits it further to memory. Which I think that was sort of like what the druids of old, that was their whole shtick. They were the lore keepers of their tribes and families. And their shtick was they would travel around and your storyteller would show up, your druid would show up and tell people tales of the gods and old ancient kings and mythical heroes. And their whole job, their whole life path was to be the keepers of the stories. And so they would memorize them to the best of their ability and pass them down. And over time, eventually you would have these stories change and alter. And once they started committing them to writing, you would have stories that would be different from area to area, but with a shared common root. And the actual evolution of culture and mythology would grow up around this oral tradition. And I think of all the myths I've ever heard, there was one in particular. It comes from the country of Ghana in Africa. And being a Midwestern American white boy, we didn't get raised on a lot of African mythology. A lot of, in fact, I don't remember learning anything about African mythology as a kid. So when I started listening to the Great Courses lecture series on mythology, and it got to a section on African mythology, I was very interested and found a story in there that just like blew my mind because I thought it was so cool and so interesting and dark and poetic, and I never heard it before. It is the story is it's the story of Gessir's Lute, and it is the first section of an epic called the Dowsey, which is this 4 or 5 part epic story, epic poem / song that giant chunks of it have been lost due to time, due to colonialism, due to violence, and just the nature of reality that over time ancient stories can be lost. But they have intact versions of the first 2 sections, I think. And it's the first section in particular that really stood out to me as a truly beautiful piece of storytelling that I can only imagine what it must have been like to have somebody come and tell you this story while you were sitting around a campfire in the days of old. But let me see if I can remember it. Let me see if I can tell this story in the best way. I'm sure I will forget key parts. I highly recommend that you check this out on your own, because I just think it's super cool. But basically, the Dowsey, as an epic tale, is mostly concerned with the rise and fall of this. At different points, it's either a city or kingdom, or a state of being called Wagadu. W-A-G-A-D-U. Wagadu is in the first section of the story, it's a kingdom. It's a kingdom, a walled city that has a beloved, benevolent king who has a son, and everything's great. And throughout the rest of the story, Wagadu is sort of used interchangeably as this mythical city, almost like Atlantis, but also to represent a time, a state of being almost, like a time when everything is good, a golden age, and a safety, a space of peace and harmony and joy and paradise, in a sense, right? Like civilization at its best, when nothing is falling apart, everything is as it should be, justice is served, and nobody gets away with bad stuff. And so that's what Wagadu is. It's also used, I think it's used as the manifestation of a goddess in a certain part of the story, but not the part that we're going to be talking about. So Wagadu, we've established Wagadu as this ancient civilization, golden age place. And I mentioned there's a king. He's an old, benevolent king. I don't know the king's name, but I know the name of the king's son because he's basically the protagonist of the first movement of the Dowsey, the first section of this epic poem. And his name is Gasir, G-A-S-S-I-R-E. So Gasir is a powerful warrior, gifted as hell. And you got to keep in mind that this was a time, this story dates back to a time in human history when people would go to war for glory. It was like sort of pre-imperialism in the sense that we know of it now, that people would fight for resources, and they would fight because fighting is what they did. Because you would, if you and your friends, you'd just go to war, like, got nothing better to do. And I mean, there's always shortage of resources and stuff and all the glory that comes with that. But so you have this warrior prince, Gasir, and everybody loves it. Everybody loves him. Everybody in Wagadu thinks, the prince is a great guy, great fella, powerful warrior, super cool. And he always wins. He always wins. He's got this stellar reputation for being extremely powerful and always winning in his bouts. Whenever he goes to war, he comes home victorious. But Gasir is not happy because Gasir feels like he's living in the shadow of his father. And his father doesn't seem like he's anywhere close to death. And no matter what, he's never just his own guy. He's never just Gasir. He's Gasir's son. He's the son of the king. Now, Gasir could be happy, right? Like, if with the right perspective, and find peace and happiness in the fact that he's beloved by his people, and his father is benevolent, and there's stability and all that stuff. But he's just not. He's dissatisfied with his reputation. He's dissatisfied with his fame, basically. And he doesn't know what to do about that until one day he decides to visit a soothsayer, to visit a shaman, sort of. Somebody he can consult to roll the bones, so to speak, and tell him about his future. Tell him about where he's going and who he'll be and what his destiny holds in store. And is he wasting his time, or will he one day become powerful and famous for being such a prodigious warrior? And so he goes and he talks to the shaman, and the shaman looks into his future. Sort of like the witches in Hamlet, right? Or not Hamlet, Macbeth. This entity that seems to be able to predict the future, that seems to know something about the future that Gasir doesn't, meets with Gasir and tells him, hey, I looked at the reading, and you are going to be super famous one day. You're going to be so famous that people are going to be telling your story for thousands of years to come. People are going to be telling your story for the rest of human history. but not for being a warrior. And Gasir's like, what? See, because I was under the impression this whole time that I was going to be a famous warrior. And the guy's like, no. See, according to this, you're going to be famous for being a bard. For those of you that don't know, a bard is a musical storyteller. Somebody who sings stories and plays, like if you've ever played The Witcher, or there's plenty of, especially these days, it's a class in Dungeons and Dragons, and there's that's actually the place where I knew the word bard from, was Dungeons and Dragons. And so when I saw it used in this ancient mythological context, it's like one of the only other places I've seen the word bard used. And I was like, huh. So it stood out to me. But yeah, he's like, yeah, Gasir, you're going to be a bard. You're going to be a famous and powerful storyteller through the art of music. And Gasir's like, what the hell are you saying to me? Like, this is not at all the vibe that I've been expecting for my future. I've never played music before. I am a warrior. I go out and I kill things. That's my shtick. Don't know if you've heard. I'm Gasir, son of the king. And so Gasir's like, what are you talking about? And the shaman goes on to say, so here's the deal. You are going to, what you're going to do is you're going to end up being famous for singing an ancient song called the Dowsy. Now, if you'll remember, the Dowsy is the name of the story that we're telling here. This is the first leg of the Dowsy. And that at that point, when they were telling this story on the Great Courses lecture series, I was like, oh, okay. This is meta-referential. This is cool as hell. I can't believe that there was a story like this, thousands of years old, hidden in Africa all this time, that we aren't freaking telling each other about, because it's cool as hell. Gasir, the main character of the Dowsy, is going to become famous for singing the Dowsy. And I was like, okay. But so the shaman goes on to say, all right, so here's the deal. You need to create a lute. Well, okay, no, I skipped the part. So basically, Gasir rejects this, right? Gasir's like, this guy's crazy, he's out of his mind, just totally irrelevant, and disregards what the guy tells him. So he keeps being relatively unhappy, and keeps having trouble sleeping and doing all the normal stuff you do when you're not happy. And eventually, Gasir, one night, out wandering, after a successful day of battle and war and whatnot, Gasir goes out into a field just to clear his head, so to speak, and just think about where he is. And while he's out in this field, lit by the moon, it's a beautiful scene, you can imagine it. There's just a gentle breeze blowing through the grasses, and he's walking along in the moonlight, and he looks up in the tree and suddenly hears an eerie song. Something he's never heard before, coming from the mouth of a strange exotic bird on the tree. And he realizes, without even knowing exactly how he realizes, that the bird is singing the Dowsy. And suddenly he can understand these strange, exotic words being spoken by this bird. He doesn't understand how it's happening, but a sort of magical force takes over, and he realizes that he's hearing the song that he has to sing. And he realizes how beautiful it is, and how noble it would be to become famous for singing such a song. And he falls in love with it. And he thinks, okay, all right. I gotta learn to sing this song. So he goes back to the shaman. And he says, all right, shaman, I see what you're playing at. I get it. I get what you're driving at here. I've heard it. I'm into it. I wanna sing it. How do I do it? And the shaman's like, great, cool, glad you're back, glad you're on board. Here's the deal. You can't play, or you can't sing the dowsy until you play the dowsy. And you can't play the dowsy unless you have crafted for yourself a lute. And Gasir's like, okay, like a stringed instrument. The guy's like, yeah, exactly, stringed instrument. So Gasir's like, oh, okay, fetch quest, I see. So he goes off on his way, and he decides to make himself this lute. And I'm sure there's some part of the story about like, oh, you have to go and find this specific kind of wood. It's special wood. It makes enchanted lutes possible. But we can just brush right past that, because the gist is he goes out and he gets the stuff. He gets the stuff, he makes the lute. And the thing is when he goes to strum it, it won't make any sound. No music will come out of it, even though he's built it properly. He knows how to build it, and he built it, and it's got strings and a hole and everything. But it won't make any noise. He goes back to the shaman again. He says, hey, what's up, bud? What's going on here? What's the riddle? What's the gimmick? What am I missing here that isn't letting me sing this damn song so I can hurry up and get famous for all time? And the shaman's like, see, that's the thing. You made the lute, but now you actually have to season it. He's like, what, season it? He's like, yeah, you have to. Basically, you have to let the power of blood and violence soak into this lute in order for it to have the magical character necessary to play something as beautiful and profound as the dowsy. You have to let suffering, grief, pain, loss, and death soak into this instrument. And until that happens, you will not be able to play the dowsy. And so Gasir's like, I see. And so here's where the story goes off the rails. Because Gasir, almost preternaturally, understands what he has to do. And so for the next week, he goes and takes, this is a part of the story where they tell you that Gasir has 7 sons, 7 kids, 7 heirs, so to speak. So for the next week, Gasir takes a different son out to battle with him every day. Allows the son to fall in combat, to die, to be killed by enemy blows, what have you. And takes their body, straps it across their back, across his back, on the way home from each of these conflicts. Strapped across the top of the lute. And so on these long death marches home, for 6 days, it's a different son every day, dies in combat, and their blood and his sorrow as a father soaks into the instrument on his back. On the 7th day, Gasir has 1 son left, right? 1 child. And the people of Wagadu are losing their minds because they realize at this point that something is seriously, seriously wrong. I mean, it was sad enough the first time, but 6 times, and now Gasir's last son and only remaining heir, he's taking him out to die in combat for some reason, and nobody understands. Oh, I missed a really important part of this story. I missed a really important part. A very, very important part of the story is that when Gasir is in the field, hearing the dowsy for the first time, being sung by this bird, and I'm probably mistelling this too, so bear with me, but when he's in the field being told the dowsy, part of the song, part of what he hears is that when he sings it, when he first sings the true dowsy, whatever the heck it actually is and sounds like, when it gets this lute to work, Wagadu, the city, the kingdom, the state of being, of bliss and perfection, Wagadu itself will fall. And so he knows this. As he's bringing his sons out to die in combat, as he's manifesting the dark powers of this instrument, he knows that ultimately what he's doing is going to result in the downfall of Wagadu, the civilization. He just doesn't care. Because the whole premise of this first section of the Tao Si is that Wagadu falls because of human sin. And Gasir's sin is vanity. He wants fame above all else. He wants to be beloved. He wants to be remembered. He wants to be immortal in some way or another, whatever the cost. So, it's important I go back and establish that because that's part of his mindset here, and that's his major sin. It's the big theme of the story, is his vanity, is the undoing of Wagadu ultimately. So he's seasoning the lute, right? He's going through and he's making sure that his sons die and they bleed into the instrument, and his sorrow is felt by the instrument, and all of this pain and darkness and suffering is absorbed by this dark, magical instrument of his own creation. And on the 7th day, a group of the other citizens of Wagadu confront him and be like, "No, dude, no, not today. You're not taking your last son out. We're drawing the line here. You are not going to get this kid killed because we love him and we love you and we don't understand what's going on, and we have to exile you because you've lost your mind." And so they do. And so they exile Gasir, and his last son, his final heir, doesn't go out to battle with him, and he goes out into the wilderness all by himself, banned from his home, prevented from returning, and exiled from the civilization. But that night, as he's laying by his campfire, he awakens in the middle of the night to hear the most haunting, beautiful music coming out of his lute. It's playing itself, and he recognizes the song right away, that it is the Tao Si. It's the same song from the bird in the field. It's the song that the shaman told him he would one day be able to play. And here it is, playing for him in all of its beauty and terrible power. And he weeps. He weeps because in that moment, he understands. He understands that here, he will be immortalized in this story, that he will be the next bearer of the Tao Si, the next part of the tale. But as it plays, the king, his father, suddenly dies. And because Gasir has been exiled, the king has no heir. And Wagadu falls into chaos. And all of this dawns on Gasir as he's laying there listening to this truly beautiful melody come out of this instrument. And he realizes what it all means. He realizes what it is he's done. And still, he appreciates how profoundly beautiful the song is. And that's the end of part 1 of that myth. That's the best I'm able to recall it. That's the thing about oral tradition stuff, is that like it's all kind of bards and druids and folks. You know, part of what makes it special is you tell it in your own way and do your best. And but yeah, hope you liked that. It's a bit of a meandering diatribe there. I think this dog's really coming together nicely. But I hope you liked my personal telling of the Tao Si. I think there's a lot of really beautiful mythology out in the world that doesn't get as much attention as like Norse and Greek mythology, you know, white mythology. And it's a shame because there's stories like that out there. Stories that, I don't know, I heard it and I was like, wow, that's profound. It was super cool to me. I love the themes. I love the sort of beautiful tragedy of it. It's extremely dark. It's my kind of story for sure. this Rottweiler puppy coming together nicely. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, everyone. Ezeldin, yeah, I was asked what my favorite mythical story was, and so I told the tale of Gasir's lute from the Dowsey. It's a Ghana African myth. Okay. One Rottweiler puppy. Hope this turns out well. So what else you got, folks? What other suggestions you want to see me make a pancake of? What other things you want to talk about? Talk about metaphysics. Talk about sacred geometry. Talk about game theory or Final Fantasy tactics. Talk about numerology. Not that into numerology, but you know, we can talk about it if you want to. Talk about just about anything. I know some weird, obscure things. Maybe you do too. I have to make a very specific pancake at the end of this stream, so I may not stream as long as I have done in the past. So it's possible that if I do another pancake, it'll be my last one, but I would love to hear some suggestions for what you think I should make. Maybe with your best shot. Otherwise, we can just enjoy the vibes. Also, I highly recommend you check out the Dowsey, D-A-U-S-I, if you're interested in wild, cool mythologies. And well, and as long as I'm thinking about it, as long as this pancake's cooking, I think one of my favorite things about the Dowsey is that even though we have lost giant sections of it, one of the things they make clear within the text of the myth is that Wagadu is lost and rediscovered, I think 3 or 4 times. And basically it gets lost when these musical instruments play these notes as a result of human folly. So vanity was one of the first, or the big sin that lost Wagadu in the first place. But then it comes back when people rediscover the virtues and they play an instrument and it all comes crushing back, and suddenly this mystical city reappears and the concept of truth and justice and harmony and enlightenment is alive and well. One of the things the myth says, and I think one of the things that I think most sticks with me as part of why I love the story so much as opposed to a lot of the apocalyptic mythology we have in our in sort of Western theology, Western cosmology, that sort of stuff, is that it says that if Wagadu is rediscovered again in our time, it will never be lost again. And that sentence alone, I think, is just one of the most hopeful ideas I've ever heard in my entire life in fiction, in any fiction ever. I've never heard a story talk about the idea of like the ebb and flow of morality over time, a self-referential tale of a song that is sung by its own characters, and that this concept, this golden age, is lost and recovered and lost and recovered and lost and recovered, and yet at the end of the tale is the idea that should we find it in our age, should we ever come back to this golden age and rediscover what it means to be honest, authentic, joyous, that we'll never lose it again. I love that idea so much. It's just as valid as any of the apocalyptic stuff we throw around, right? Like the inevitability of the end of our days, the end of our world, that everything we know and love is going to end and expire. Like, by the same token, we could totally figure everything out in the world in the next month. You know, I mean, I know that we probably won't, but my point is that it's possible, and that there are lots of things that are possible only when we tell stories that open us to the possibility. Only if we're open, if we're not open to the possibility, if we refuse to accept the possibility that everything could get better, then when the variables arise that could make it get better, we won't see that. We won't see it, and so we won't manifest it, and we will go a different direction. And we'll continue to manifest bad shit, as they say. I'm gonna flip this Rottweiler real quick. I think it might be getting a little crispy there on the other side. 3, 2, 1. Oh! And oh God, that's hot. There it is. It did get a little crispy. Oy vey. Let me cut to the overhead here. What a cutie. What a cutie patootie. Look at that cute little dog. It's a cutie patootie. Hey Ben. I'm singing songs and telling stories to our internet friends. And Daniel just wandered in.
That's me.
Hopping on the computer.
Now the audio's out of sync.
The audio's out of sync. That's great news. All right. What do y'all want me to make next? Puppy laying on his tummy, laying there looking at you. Puppy laying on his tummy, what are you going to do? Puppy and a cinnamon roll, sitting on a couple of plates. Puppy and a cinnamon roll, I just can't wait for this next pancake. Gonna make another pancake. Gonna make me another pancake. A-dooby-dooby-doo. 5 Nights at Freddy's Pancakes. You got a specific character you want me to make? Do Freddy Fazbear. That's his name, right? Never played 5 Nights at Freddy's, but... Freddy Fazbear. That's always a popular one. Miami Hurricanes logo, green and orange. It's a solid request, Joseph. Take a look here. Got a good Freddy Fazbear reference. That shouldn't take too much effort. Oh, stick around. Stay in the chat. Nice, simple design.
We got it.
Thanks, Ben.
We were 200 milliseconds off.
That's more than one.
Yes, that is 0.2 of a second.
That's too many tenths of a second.
You're welcome, everybody. Bye. Bye.
And there he goes. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Dot, 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 dot. Oh, that griddle's on. Oh, that's not good. Well, I have to fill these in before they start peeling, huh? That's all black. That's all black. That's all black. little bit of gray. Got a lot of white. Good night, Misty. I hope you sleep well. Appreciate you. How you doing there, champ? I really appreciate that. It's going to help me really take this to the next level.
That looks delicious.
Thanks. For those of you who don't know, I am a game developer, and there is a game that I funded on Kickstarter this year, a board game multimedia art project called Anthromancer. And we are very, very close to finally finishing the main development of that game, sending the assets off to a manufacturer, and after 6 years of working towards this, finally getting the physical copies of this dream of mine manufactured and distributed to all of our fans and friends and supporters a couple months into 2021. And I've been very blessed the last couple of weeks and months to have found some people who are able to fill the niches that I need filled as far as this development process has gone. There's one gentleman in particular named Ethan who in the last couple of months has come on board to help me typeset the codex, which is the rules manual, but because of the nature of this board game, the manual is going to end up being pretty long. It's going to be like 150 pages, probably. So typesetting has been this very daunting project, but Ethan has stepped up and helped bring it to completion. We're very, very close to getting all of the typesetting done, and after that, I mean, that's basically it. There's one other thing that I'm having my designer friend, partner, Willa, who y'all might have seen on the stream. They came to visit a couple weeks ago. And Willa is putting together a rules insert to help new players get into the core game, which is called Mercenarium. But once that's done, that's basically it. That's the last thing that Anthromancer needs before we can move forward on manufacturing. And after, I just mentioned that I've been working on it for about 6 years. I have to tell you, to work on something for that long and to stick with it and have the patience and finally get to a point where it might be able to move forward and you can start manufacturing it. It's got me very excited, and it's got my long-term creator brain lighting up like a Christmas tree, because once this comes out, there's a lot of questions in my brain about what comes next. What do you do next? What are you gonna work on next? What do you want to get involved in next? And what I really want to do, and what I've been thinking about a lot lately, not just because of some of the video games I've played recently, but also just because it's been a very long-term dream of mine, is starting a video game studio. And starting by turning Anthromancer into an app, a mobile game, something like that. Because it would work really well in that capacity, I think. It's just a matter of getting together a team of people who can help manifest that. And I'm very fortunate to live in St. Louis and be surrounded with as many interesting and cool and creative people as I am. Because folks may not know this, but St. Louis is a hotbed of indie game development. Independent game devs, artists, programmers, UX and UI designers. And so just from being here, living here and being in this community and attending some events and not moving to LA when we started to get famous, there's this pool of talent that I feel like we could probably reach out to and work something out with to get a really awesome independent game studio based here in our hometown off the ground. And gosh, if that wouldn't be a childhood dream of mine manifested, I don't know what would. Getting to make video games for a living. Oh, and we'll keep you in mind, Sky Kid, because we will probably need voice work at some point in the future. That's the dream, right? Get to a point where you can make cool enough games that you need voice work. Samantha suggests characters from the Netflix show Big Mouth. I think, I'm not sure if that was you that mentioned that at the beginning of the stream, but yeah, I think I could probably get that. It's a fun show. I haven't seen a couple episodes of it. None of the stuff they've put out lately, but we did get to tour the Titmouse Studios once, because we met Chris Prynowski, the founder and owner of Titmouse, at an event we did for Dungeons & Dragons a couple years back. So that was pretty cool to have a little tour of Titmouse. Got to see where the sausage is made. They're very proud of Big Mouth there. It's like their biggest hit so far, I think. They make a lot of weird stuff at Titmouse. All right. Freddy Fazbear. Appreciate that, Bud. We appreciate you. Thanks for giving us the support. Here, I'll make the titular character, Nick Kroll's character. Is his name Nick in the show? I don't recall. I remember I had gotten to here's the reference I'm going to use for the next Pancake. I got into an argument with Dana when that show came out. Because she said, it looks terrible. Just as an animation junkie, as somebody who loves animation, that show just looks so awful. And I was like, yeah, it looks like kind of like weird and monstrous and awkward, right? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, it kind of feels like that's the point. Like it's a show about the awkwardness of being a preteen and a teenager, like entering into puberty, and how awful that period of life is. And I was like, in that sense, I think it's perfectly animated. And the episodes I've seen have been pretty funny. But they're like, yeah, look at the main character. He looks hideous. And I'm like, yeah, that's the point. Like, he's, what is he, 12, 13, something like that, if that. And I remember being 12 and 13, and I didn't look particularly handsome. I gotta tell you, the beard helps. If I shaved my beard off right now, I'd look so awkward. Thanks, modern fashion, for making beards cool again. Now I can wear my plaid button-up shirt and look like a damn lumberjack. Okay, Freddy Fazbear. 3, 2, 1, hey! That's it, right? Five Nights at Freddy's? Alright. Oh, dag nabbit. Gotta remember to take pictures of these. We put these on the website later. All right. Oh. Mandalorian. Star Wars Cantina music. Yes, indeed. Lodged in our brains forevermore. We'll never not be in the Star Wars Cantina. It's who we are now. All right, let me think here. Cameron Weagle asks, make a pineapple, please. That's a good, I could probably do something like that. I could probably do pineapple. Jeremy, you keeping track of the suggestions? Keeping track of the suggestions out there? That is not coming out very quickly. I'm gonna need to take another shot at that. Let that griddle cool off a little bit. Give me a moment, y'all. Is that gonna be sizzly? Neat. Look at it go. Look at it sizzle away from me. Run away! Wow, it's really going for a long time, huh? It's like a sport. I should have put two down at the same time. We could have taken bets. Cameron, you can totally, I believe we have a donation link at pancakes.com/store, but, I mean, it would also be awesome if you'd take a look at our Patreon. I don't know. I mean, there's a million different ways you can support us and what we do. Whatever's most comfortable for you. Obviously, I'm really hoping to build our Patreon base more, so even if you were to donate us less, but then make it a monthly recurring thing, I'm sure that, there's something on that list that would interest you in terms of, like, freebies that you get for supporting us on Patreon. But I would love for you to check it out and see if that's something you're interested in. Otherwise, yeah, there's probably there's a donation link on the Pancakes website somewhere. A tip jar. I think it's pancakes.com/tip jar. I might be wrong on that. It changes because we've been updating the website so much lately. Yeah, all on pancakes.com. All right. Big old square head. Simple, simple color scheme. Something about that's off. That's a little bit better. Not a very wide aperture on this bottle tip, so filling a big area like this hair takes a little bit more time. It takes a little bit of energy too, so salvage the muscles in my right hand by grabbing with both hands here. There we go. Owie. Through. thinking about, you want to know what's going through my head right now? I'm thinking about joy pancakes. I'm thinking about the joy pancakes as a concept. I read a thread on Twitter today that has been kind of sticking with me about the nature of art in the 21st century, specifically in the last 10, 15 years, especially the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years, as all of the social media platforms through which we share our art and through which we make our careers have effectively incentivized artists to alienate themselves from the products of their own labor. And I'm sitting here thinking about this right now because there's something about, there's this balance that we've had to strike with Pancakes, and we don't balance it all the time. We don't succeed all the time. It's very hard to maintain your integrity in this world where what people want to see and what we are all incentivized to both seek out and produce are things like this. And not to say, there's nothing wrong with Big Mouth. There's nothing wrong with liking Big Mouth. I think it's a great show. But there's something absurd about going on a live stream and making branded things that I have no real emotional attachment to. This isn't art, what I'm doing necessarily, so much as it is a parlor trick. I'm turning an image that already exists from a corporate brand into a pancake in a process that doesn't really, what it does is it's got the magic trick. It's got the built-in flip. You see this, you see the flip, you see the reveal, and then you see the final product, and it's cool. But that's all it is it's cool. It's cool for a moment, and it won't, it's not gonna, the fact that I did this isn't gonna blow any minds, really. It's not gonna, it's a cool thing, it's cool to connect, and I guess it's, I'm not trying to like crap on this one in particular. This isn't just this particular pancake, so for the person who suggested this, I think it was Samantha, don't take this personally. Like, I'm going off on a tangent here and just kind of being authentic about where my brain's at. One of the things this thread on Twitter was talking about was how, as we have been incentivized to make more and take less and less time on each piece so that we can fulfill our daily quotas and please the algorithms and do everything we can to increase our reach and our social media metrics as a means for survival, right? Like, I can't make a living as an artist if I don't do things like this. But in that sense, you get caught in this loop where you aren't really being an artist anymore. You're not really illustrating something that truly means something to you, or expressing something, or contributing to the greater conversation in the world in any meaningful way. You're making a cool short-term thing. You're showing off on the internet. And just thinking about it, because over the last several years of doing Pancakes, put a pin in that. I'm gonna take a picture of this, plate it, and then I think for my last pancake, I'm just gonna freestyle something so I can go ahead and keep talking about what I'm thinking about here, so I can get this off my mind. Take a better photo there. Okay, that'll do. Yeah, we're gonna freestyle and flow. There you go. It's Nick Kroll's character from Big Mouth. Set these over here. I will do a roundup of the pancakes at the end of the stream, so if you missed one, I'll show you all the pancakes we made. This is gonna be my last one, and I don't think I'm gonna do a specific request. I'm just gonna freestyle and talk. I got stuff on my mind here. So, basically, if you've spoken to me about Pancakes at length at any point over the last 6 years, occasionally you'll hear me bring up the fact that this was never what I wanted to do with my life. And for the first couple of years that I did pancake art, I actually had some resentment for Pancakes, for the company that was emerging around me, and is that right? arranging my colors here so I can make something. I have an idea. The company that was emerging around me and the job that opened up before me that is objectively a better job than working at a diner. I like this so much more. But if I have ever expressed any resentment for this job, it's been in the fact that I haven't ever really felt like I am doing this because I love it. And I know that there's different philosophies, different people that approach that. Do what you love, or do what you love and you never work a day in your life, or follow your passion, or passion. One of the more compelling things I've heard is that passion emerges from things that you do. Like, you can find your passion in anything. You're not necessarily looking for the thing that will make you happy. You're looking to find happiness in whatever you happen to be doing, and I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. Nevertheless, there's always been this part of me that's been very sort of, I don't want to necessarily say bitter, because it hasn't been a strong enough emotion, I think, to count as bitterness. But there's definitely been a part of me that has felt alienated from the quote-unquote art that paves the way for me in this world, the art that becomes my career. Because nobody started to follow my pancake art because I was saying something deep and true and authentic with it. They follow it because it's cool, because it's a neat trick. And I could probably work harder to establish that deep, abiding, authentic expression with it. But I've always found those come out of me in other ways, musically, my writing, my game design. There are lots and lots of things that I want to contribute to the greater human conversation that I don't feel I can do very much of in pancake art, except for what I'm doing right now, right? Like, it's doing this freestyle pancake, talking about what's on my mind, talking about these misgivings and these ideas I have. That gives me a lot of creative fulfillment. That makes me feel a lot more, it feels meaningful to me to have these kinds of conversations. And it feels worthwhile in a way that just doing pancakes because people ask for them, because they want to see their favorite character, but in pancakes this time, has never felt. Because a lot of times with those, I mean, it's one thing to do it in person for people and make them smile and give them something that's going to make them feel happy and seen, or do something completely unique that they've never seen before, or their pets or their loved ones or what have you. I mean, there's definitely something to that, some very human connective quality that I think has been lacking this year because of the lack of events and so on and so forth. But I don't know how to say it aside from I never feel like I'm firing on all cylinders unless I'm doing something like this, unless I have a captive audience and I'm able to talk about the things I'm really passionate about. Spiritual revolution type stuff. Those are the concepts I want to explore with my art the most, and don't get the opportunity in pancake art that often. And so this thread on Twitter was talking about how this is not just a me thing, right? Like, I have occasionally felt like I need to shame myself for feeling that way because, oh, how dare I not be grateful all the time for this wonderful thing that happened to me. But it was interesting to read this thread and feel like there were words being put to this vague sense of disconnection I've felt from pancakes this entire time. That we often get into conflicts at the studio around like what we should be making. Like, all of our fans have requested this as a pancake. And we know that this is a hot meme right now. This is trending on Twitter. These are the sorts of things that we need to be focusing our content on. How can we, what title can we give to our stream to maximize engagement? What music can we play? What should we reference? What mask should we wear today so as to maximize our chances of being able to eat and live comfortably later in our lives? Like what's the game we're playing here? It's just nice to know that that's everybody, right? Everybody's going through that kind of a thing. Every artist in the world is caught. It seems that we're caught in this trap between a rock and a hard place. Because on the one hand, if we don't get a big social media following and make viral videos, we won't have enough attention, we won't have enough money coming in, people buying our products and services to enable us to make the really fun, cool stuff. Oh. Gonna have to tighten this up a little bit. But on the other hand, it's you get so caught up in making that stuff that you fail to do anything meaningful with your art. You just get caught, specifically, you end up lacking inspiration in your work. You end up making things out of obligation, not because you want to, not because you feel a strong sense that, oh, I really want to see what this would look like, or I really want to do this piece, but you start to, you're pleasing the machine. Even though you are an artist, and as an artist, there's something inherently, all of it gets eaten by the same machine, the machinery of capital, the machinery of profit, of needing to be a certain thing, needing to make a certain thing, to meet a certain quota, what have you. Get enough views on your stuff. It's really, really easy to lose yourself in that game. And then before you know it, you're like, this year in particular, because it has been so hard, so economically challenging for us at Pancakes, has been well, it's hard to continue to justify doing it when it's such a struggle, and it doesn't even feel like a meaningful struggle at a certain point. Like, it's like, what are we doing this for? What do we want to say? What do we want to do? We're always constantly double checking our authenticity and trying to make sure that we aren't stepping out of line or saying something that's going to lose us followers, or the justification is that this is our livelihood. And it's not just my livelihood, it's the livelihood of everybody who works with me. It's the livelihood of, it's the potential incomes of all the other artists we have based out of St. Louis and other parts of the United States. It's the brand obligations we have to the company that's manufacturing our griddles and our supplies. There's all these different checks and balances on your authenticity as a person. Like, if I wanted to get out there and start proper speaking my mind on Pancake's Twitter account, it wouldn't really fly. It wouldn't make sense, it wouldn't feel organic, and it wouldn't be acceptable. But I mean, that's the breaks. we all have these masks, these roles we have to play if we're going to eat. And I'd really like to change that. I'd really like that not to be the case. I don't think it has to stay that way. I don't think there's anything. Rebecca says, as an artist myself, I definitely know where you're coming from and how you feel. It's very hard sometimes. Yeah, well, and one thing I try to keep in mind is that I'm really fortunate, right? Like, as much as I am, so to speak, griping or critiquing the position that I'm in as an artist, I've been extremely blessed. I have found a following and stumbled into an art form that was novel enough that we managed to get this big old social media following. And it's not the biggest in the world. It's big enough to have brought us this far. You know, the fact that I'm sitting here talking about this, if it weren't for the success I've experienced, if it weren't for all the good things that have come my way, you wouldn't be hearing me say this. Like, the only reason I'm able to talk like this, about this, in this way, in this venue, is because of how freaking fortunate I've been to have stumbled into the career I have. And so, I know I said it once before, but I'll say it again. I don't want to sound like I'm not grateful, because I'm super grateful. I'm grateful every day that I get to do something that is creatively challenging as a means for generating money. I just wish I had even more freedom than I currently have. Because even with as much freedom as I do have, I still feel like I have to please the machine. And I think that there's something inherently not just oppressive, not just, meh, I don't want to do it. But I think there's something that gets lost when you have so many human beings with so much human potential wrapped up in this system where, rather than applying our creative powers to meaningful ways to improve one another's time on this earth, we're trying to do this cheap, tawdry nonsense that just gets us more hits. We're doing clickbait. We're doing goofy one-shot gags just to, like, play into the fact that people are just looking for a way to distract themselves from how bleak and depressive reality itself has become as of late. And I think there's something that feels very inauthentic about it. And it's like, what do you do? What do you do about that? So what if it's inauthentic? Moose Gal's Corner. I wish I had a job to go to that makes me decent money and happiness. Yeah. Yeah, I think honestly, I think people deserve the opportunity for that. I am a fan of the proposition of a universal basic income. I think that we are at a point as a society, we have developed technologically to the point where you could literally give people money for free and ultimately save money as a civilization, as a society in the long run. And I don't think there's a very strong argument why we shouldn't do that. It would be very good for the economy, so to speak. Because I know that's the big thing. People are always, the economy, this big imaginary construct called the economy that determines determines our humanity in a lot of ways, like what we're willing to sacrifice and what we're willing to save. It all depends on what the great demon we call the economy demands of us. And I'm like, we would be getting much better art and stories and video games, much better experiences, we'd have a better social fabric if we just took care of each other, if we just took care of one another and took care of our general needs with money, with the economic power that our way of being has generated. There's no good reason not to. Because I don't know how many times I've been extremely, like, something that I think about a lot is like video games. I really enjoy video games, and I play a lot of them. And lately, there have been some really big, impressive video game titles that have been super hyped up that have then been released and been sort of underwhelming. I like where this is going. And in a lot of cases, just not good. And I think a large part of the reason that they end up being bad is because of the incentives of profit, the pressure that's on everybody that's making them to either make something just really, really amazing or fail. And they put all this bizarre, there's crunch, there's unnecessary stress on the actual artistic process, because the process has been, what's the word? Co-opted. The artistic process itself has been co-opted by the need to generate revenue, to generate likes, to generate shares, to generate the means of subsistence for the people that are creating the thing. And you end up with games that people work thousands and thousands of hours on that just aren't very good. Because ultimately, video games, any kind of thing that is like an entertainment product, at its core is only good if it is approached as a work of art. And if you don't approach it as a work of art, which is to say as a genuine expression of the soul, as an expression of human ingenuity and authenticity, I want to connect with you in this way, and so I've poured my energy into this. The reason that we've got all these gigantic, expensive, big studio clusters of movies and video games that come out that are just extremely underwhelming is because they're not making them to connect with anybody. They're making them to make money. And it's fine, I guess. It's fine to try and make money in this world. You gotta. But like, when you're trying to make art to impress people, when you're trying to make art just for the metrics, you're not making art. You're doing a parlor trick. You're doing something to just, you're trying to game a system that can't be gamed. Like, human expression, I'm very passionate about this. One of the things that really comes to mind is, like, I'm just hoping as the years go on that maybe we will all change our consumption habits in such a way that maybe we won't have to have a violent revolution or something across the planet. Maybe we won't have to struggle and die any more than we already are to make this different. Because it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to you know, people, in the video game industry in particular, you have this thing called burnout. Well, you have it everywhere, but from what I understand, the average amount of time that a young developer spends in the AAA video game industry is about 5 years, which coincidentally is the same as the average development cycle of a AAA video game. And that's not by coincidence. That is that people come in, work on a AAA video game, and then decide they never want to work on another game again. And these are people that are bright and young and inspired, and I know from experience that if you take somebody like that and give them resources without strings attached, and then leave them alone for a decade or so, however long it takes, you come back and you've got some of the most innovative, weird, wild, new, creative human experiences in the entire world. But you give 200 people 2,000 times the resources and give them a rigid hierarchy and a series of deadlines and a corporate structure that's owned by shareholders, and give them the same amount of time, and you end up with something that's just really, really shiny and kind of meh. Like, it's forgettable. It's forgettable. And that's shameful, I think. It's a shameful waste of human potential, and it's abusive and exploitative, and it diminishes what all of these different creative projects could be. But gotta make money, so we'll get. It's so ridiculous. It's absolutely, I guess, offensive. I think it's offensive, and as I recognize that I still am in a position where I have to participate in that philosophy. I have to, because people want to see certain things, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that it's cool to connect with somebody through a live stream and make a request of a specific piece of pancake art, and how cool is that? And I'm really glad that we're able to preserve the pieces now, because I feel a lot less transient about the process. That, like, if I make something really cool or really special or a character people really love, I can preserve it, and then it can end up on their wall, and that's cool. That's a really cool, special thing. That makes this a little bit less of a, like, an arcade mode on life. And I'm about to flip this spiral thing. It looks like we got some cool conversation happening in the chat that I haven't really been able to. I've been off on my own little world here. Let me take a look. Mooskow. Mooskow's Corner. I'm afraid that in 2021 I'll have no more financial resources. Don't know why I'm mentioning all this. It's exhausting, feeling ashamed. By the way, I enjoy your creative talent. Sky Kid says, Moose, financial troubles are not a fun thing to go through, but sometimes you need to let things off your chest, and that's all right. Wish you nothing but the best for the future. Sky Kid says, I hear you, Dr. Dan, about the video game industries. Can't mention names, but some games were rushed, greatly hyped for sales, but when they got released, most gamers were angry. Semi-Wolf, I enjoy listening to how you view the world. It's amazingly true. Well, I appreciate you saying so. Brittany, could you make a pancake of Keith from Voltron? I really like that TV show. I've never watched it, but I've heard good things about it, and I've done some of the characters from the show before. This is going to be my last pancake for this stream, but I'm streaming again on Wednesday, so if you drop in on Wednesday, Brittany, I can probably make you something like that. And Moose says, Sky Kid, I'm 41 and very scared. At the same time, I'm a little excited for the new year. Moose, I'm excited for the new year as well. I'm going to flip this abstract spiral here. There's a lot of religious symbology that goes into spirals. There's anybody here knows about Newgrange, the Neolithic monument in Ireland. There's a lot of spirals on the wall there. It's a very satisfying pattern to zone out and draw. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I like that a lot. Oh, colorful. Messy. That's my jam. I love doing that stuff. Outside of Pancakes, are you an abstract artist? Well, not really. I guess that's some abstract art for you there. Sky Kid, about giving rookie creators resources and letting them be. Scott Coffin did that to fan-made Five Nights at Freddy's game creators and has been really supportive of upcoming creators and games. I mean, I think it makes so much more sense than being vindictive and trying to shut people's creativity down. Because, I don't know, we're all in this together, man. We are. We're all in this together, and I feel like the only thing we can do meaningfully is realize we're all on the same team and band together and advocate for our rights. Like general strike stuff and unions and all that kind of philosophy, the collectivism of realizing that, like, if we're all at odds with one another all the time, it's all going to be terrible for all of us except for like 2 guys. And they're only going to be so powerful because they're dicks. And so our system by default incentivizes dicks, to be mean and vindictive and selfish and petty and small and sue people out of their house and home and all those awful things. And Dan, are you interested in cyberpunk? You mean the genre or the video game? Because I am a big fan of the genre. I have not played the game. I've heard mixed things about the game. That was one of the games that was on my mind when I was going on my little video game rant there a moment ago. I've heard that it was underwhelming, technically, in a lot of ways. But I've also heard that their writing is really good, which doesn't surprise me because that company tends to have really good writing. But the genre itself, I'm very interested in. I love the themes. I love the dystopian reality, and because in a lot of ways we're growing into that world. Moose's Gal's Corner, and before you'd asked, at least you have success, Dan. I have no idea how to change my life around. I really love this cake. Well, I'm glad you love this pancake. And as I finish up the stream here, I'm gonna move this griddle out of the way, and we will pull the rest of these pancakes into the frame here so that we can have our little roundup. This will be my last, this is the end of the stream here, folks. So I appreciate y'all coming in and hanging out and listening to me ramble about this, that, and the other thing. Got a couple of really interesting designs here today. We got a cinnamon roll. We got a puppy dog, a Rottweiler puppy specifically. We got Freddy Fazbear from Five Nights at Freddy's. We got Nick Kroll's character from Big Mouth. And I just kind of went off on my own little brain world and made that colorful spiral. Something to get lost in. So that is our stream, just about. Let me move these into shot a little bit better. As usual, I'm super grateful for everybody tuning in and checking it out, coming and hanging out with me. And we're going to be doing it again on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Central Daylight Time. And usually we do, Ben Daniel comes in and does a stream on Fridays at 6 p.m. Central Daylight Time. So if you're interested in checking out some more of these long-winded streams where we just kind of meander along and make cool pancakes and talk about whatever we feel like talking about, we would love to have you in those. Moose, we generally preserve them. We don't preserve all of them, but we usually freeze them, then freeze dry them and sink them into resin. And over the course of this week, we're actually going to be going through our studio and resining like an enormous amount of them because we've kind of got a backlog built up. We make a lot on these streams and try to save almost all of them. So if you're interested in buying any of those pieces, we've also got the pieces on the wall. We do commissions, we do live and digital events, and we sell pancake art equipment. So all of your pancake art needs, check out dancakes.com. Will, good to see you in the chat, my old friend. Will was my general manager when I first got hired at the diner where I started making these pancakes. So shout out to Will, shout out to Courtesy Diner. He says I'm like the Bob Ross of pancakes. That's what I'm going for, bud. Appreciate you. Thanks for dropping in, man. Dorsey Bryant says, have you ever eaten them? Yes, these are all edible pancakes. These ones are going to end up being preserved, so I'm not going to take any bites out of any of these. But they are all, the batter is mixed fresh just about every time. All the colors we use are gel colors, which is the same thing they put in cupcake icing. So it's totally edible until we sink it into tabletop resin. And then you probably don't want to eat it, you'll break your teeth. And let me see. Oh, I appreciate you saying that, Moose. I appreciate you hanging out, and we love you too. We will be, like I said, we're going to be doing this again on Wednesday. And then if you have any really specific requests that you want us to try and make on Sundays at 2 p.m. Central Daylight Time, just about every week. We did do it last week because of the holiday, but almost every week we do the Pancakes request live stream, specifically made so that you can hop in, drop a request in chat, and we can make whatever you like. And we would love it if you would come and check that out. Otherwise, I hope that y'all have a wonderful day. Moose says, how many cakes have you created? Probably tens of thousands at this point. You got to keep in mind, I've been doing pancake art full time for about 6 years, and about 4 or 5 years before that, I was making it as a full-time fry cook. So I've made a lot of pancake art over the years. A lot of mistakes, but as we always say at Pancakes, and I always like to go out on this one, remember, folks, mistakes are delicious. I hope to see you all around. I hope you'll check out some future streams, and I hope to see you in the chat there. So thanks again. We'll see you around.